We're now into chapters 13, 14, 15, and 16 of Wuthering Heights. A lot has gone on. The Kathy and Heathcliff situation has come to a head for Edgar, and he's made his stand, but Kathy has become quite sick. Beginning of chapter 13, we see recovery. What season is she recovering in? Is it a complete recovery? Has she changed in any way? Pay attention to that. Of course, the bulk of chapter 13 is not in Nellie's voice. She pulls out a letter and shares it with Lockwood, and this letter dominates the narrative of chapter 13. She writes a letter to Nellie. Why is Isabella writing a letter to Nellie? We do know she sent a letter to Edgar. Does she get a response from that? Why is she writing this long letter to Nellie when she's written only a very short letter to Edgar? What questions is she asking Nellie about Heathcliff? What does it suggest about her experience as a newly married woman with Heathcliff? So what do we learn about Isabella? What do we learn about Heathcliff? And what do we also learn about Henley, since our newlyweds are living in Wuthering Heights? We have a lot of violence in this chapter, and I have put up a passage here which I do want you to look at in your book. And this is part of Isabella's interaction with Henley. What do we learn about the situation at Wuthering Heights? What has changed? And what is driving Henley's pain and anger now? She is fascinated by the weapon that he has. It's probably a Lacroix pistol knife, which means it's a spring knife on one side that can be folded up, and on the other side it's a pistol. So again, we have something that is a weapon at both ends. Is that significant in any way? And what is Isabella's reaction to looking at this weapon, holding this weapon? Of course, Henley rips it back from her as if she's going to keep it. Is, in a certain sense, her attraction to the weapon something about Isabella's attraction to violence, or maybe even to Heathcliff? Again, what do you think this suggests? When we get to chapter 14, Nellie is visiting the newlyweds. Of course, Isabella expects her to bring a letter from her brother. She does not. At the beginning of chapter 14, Edgar basically says he doesn't hate her. It's not a question of forgiveness. He just feels that he's eternally divided from her because he can't ever reconnect with her, and in fact feels sorry for her. Do you feel sorry for Isabella? Do you think that she's responsible for what's happened to her? Remember, she's 18 years old. She's about your age. So Nellie, when she first sees the physical state that Isabella's in, she uses the word slattern to describe her and characterize her. That word has more than one meaning. What would that suggest about Nellie's view of not only her appearance, but her behavior? How does Heathcliff talk about Isabella in front of Isabella when he's speaking to Nellie? What does that suggest about their relationship? Why has Heathcliff married Isabella? There doesn't seem to be any love. What kind of power is given to him by marrying Isabella? So make a list in your reader writer notebook. I really strongly urge you to do this. Comment on the violent images you see in this chapter and some of the violent things that are intimated that happen in this chapter. Some critics think that Bronte just went too far with this, but apparently it inspires a lot of interest in understanding why Isabella and Heathcliff end up the way they do and why they interact the way they do. What impact has Nellie had on the plot, good and bad? What has she done that has resulted in certain things? Maybe if she'd spoken sooner, would they have gotten Isabella back and stopped this from happening? I don't know if we'll know. Is Nellie the villain of our novel? Certainly in her delirium earlier on in our last reading, Kathy basically said that she saw Nellie as her secret enemy, even at one point the hag, the witch that lives on the moors. Is Nellie our villain? Is something else a villainy within this novel? So keep a look at and think about this as you read. At the end of chapter 14, Lockwood is musing on Nellie's dreary tale. He's thinking about the fascination of brilliant eyes and his fear of surrendering to which Kathy? One Kathy, both Kathys? What do you think is Lockwood's fascination with him? And why do you think Nellie is telling a complete stranger the intimate goings-ons and histories of those people at Wuthering Heights? What could possibly be motivating her to tell Lockwood this story? Is fascination an important reason why? And if so, why? Chapter 15, we have a description of Catherine at the beginning of the chapter. How is she described? What is Bronte's intention in describing her the way that she does? What is the point of this, and what is it setting us up for? Chapter 15, Cathy and Heathcliff meet. In chapter 14, he passionately argued with Nellie to give a letter. He said he would see Cathy no matter what happened, even if he had to do violent things. And Nellie has finally given a letter to him, from him to her. But she waited 3 days. Why did she wait that amount of time? What was going on? Cathy and Heathcliff meet. What do they say to each other? This is some of the most passionate language of the book. Some of the most memorable lines occur in this chapter. What does he mean when he says that it's hard to forgive? And he can forgive his murderer. He loves his murderer, but he can't forgive hers. What is he saying here? Why does he say that Cathy betrayed her own heart? And what led to this betrayal? And let's find out what the result will be. Chapter 16, very beginning, we are suddenly given information we have not had at all before. Why does Nellie make no prior mention of this? Would it have changed in any way how we reacted to the Heathcliff and Cathy interaction in chapter 15 if we had known this? So chapter 16, our big surprise moment, see what's going on. In chapter 16, Heathcliff is told Cathy dies. And this is his sort of response. I want you to think about this passage, how he says that she should haunt him, that she must haunt him, and that he can't live his life without his soul. Think about how does this connect with what Cathy said in chapter 9. Do we see other such echoes through this novel? There's a lot to investigate in looking at this last chapter. The time of baby Cathy's birth, the description of light in the 5th paragraph of the chapter, how Heathcliff is compared to animals in his reaction to Catherine's death, the twisting of the locks of hair and where they're positioned and why Nellie does it, and the position of Catherine's grave. How is it described? Where is it located? Maybe this suggests the two parts of Cathy in a way. So I hope that you enjoy reading these chapters, and I hope you get deeper into the novel. In fact, we have actually, when we look at this novel, when it's set up in its 2-volume set, we actually hit volume 2 in chapter 15. Would you have made the break there? And why do you think the break is there? So let me know, and I look forward to discussing this with you all in class.